Hey everyone, welcome to a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone. Hi. I'm Diana Davison, and last week I started talking about the crazy story of Stephen Galloway, an acclaimed Canadian author and recent victim of what Margaret Atwood reasonably called a witch hunt. In November of 2015, Stephen Galloway was suspended pending an investigation that ultimately cleared him of allegations he'd sexually assaulted a student. But he got fired anyway. Galloway's union at the University of British Columbia filed 2 grievances in this matter, which are still pending. One was against the way UBC publicly announced that Stephen's suspension was taking place using phrases that suggested he was a rapist, and the other challenging the decision to fire him without severance, even though the 2-year affair he'd had with a mature student was found to have been consensual. The investigation connected to the grievance will not be dealt with until March of 2017, and given the way they handled the first investigation, we have no reason to believe that UBC will handle the issue fairly. I promised shocking revelations at the end of my last video, and I'm certain I won't disappoint. But before we get started, I want to mention something just briefly. I'm not all that good at math, or maybe I am, but this 2-yearish extramarital affair happened in 2011, and Stephen was married at the time. That takes us to around the end of 2013. Stephen Galloway has since gotten divorced, and he's now remarried to someone who is not the complainant. Stephen's current wife married him shortly after the allegations were made public in 2015, so kudos to his new wife on that one. So we have a woman who spent 2 years having an affair with a married man. He finally gets divorced, and some other woman gets to marry him. I'm suspecting there's more than coincidence in the timing of these allegations. Guys, you're supposed to be lonely and miserable for at least 2 years after a bad breakup. Best yet, 10 years. But on to the stuff that I can actually prove. Let's return to Annabelle Lyon. This was Galloway's colleague and close friend, also a member of the faculty, who ended up getting Stephen's job. Annabelle had been helping complainants gather witnesses in secret while pretending to be Galloway's friend. Such a good friend that she's one of the first people Stephen spoke to when he was finally informed of the accusations. That's how much he trusted her when all this went down on November 16th of 2015. As reported by Carrie Gold in The Walrus, based on the written police report, Stephen Galloway got an email 10 minutes before he was due to give a lecture in Ohio. So Stephen is out of the country, alone in a hotel room, when he's told that he's being accused of sexual assault. He then has to go and give a lecture, and he makes it through that. When he returns back to the hotel, he makes a few phone calls, and we know that Annabelle Lyon was one of those calls. During their conversation, Annabelle claims that Stephen said he might as well kill himself. I've actually spoken with a number of people who have said this, and most of them were complete strangers, so I know what compassionate people do in this situation when you're legitimately concerned. The first thing you do is tell them that they're really emotional right now and that they should calm down before they do anything drastic. Talk them through their emotions and attempt to secure a promise that they won't do anything suicidal. Remind them what they have to live for and try to keep them focused. If you're still concerned that they might harm themselves, call 911 and ask emergency services to check in on them. So let's look at what Annabelle Lyon did. Annabelle phones police in Ohio and tells them that Stephen is a suicide risk. So caring is Annabelle Lyon, such a good friend, that she tells police Stephen Galloway can, quote, be very manipulative in order to get what he wants, unquote. She says this to make sure that police take Galloway into custody, no matter what he says to them. She tells police that Stephen said, "I should just kill myself." Galloway doesn't recall having said this because she didn't seem to have an extended conversation with him about the statement. He says he might have said it because he was depressed. This is not sufficient for the actions that Annabelle took. What friend would tell police that you are manipulative, to get what you want in order to make sure that police take you into custody? But that's what happened. Stephen Galloway was committed to a mental ward involuntarily in a foreign country, and he was stuck until his girlfriend, now his wife, came to get him out. Don't we all wish we had good friends like Annabelle Lyon? One of the things we don't know here is whether or not Annabelle told her good friend Stephen that she was one of the people who organized the accusations, but I'm betting she didn't. It probably slipped her mind because she was so busy celebrating her promotion to Galloway's job. She'd just been informed of her promotion the same day, before she spoke to Stephen on the phone. I imagine that Annabelle told him she was devastated when she got the phone call. Absolutely shocked. Because though she'd known the accusations were coming, she'd helped his accusers build their case without saying a word to her good friend, Stephen Galloway. The last thing in the world she could have wanted was for him to get fired. But I don't want to be unfair or unkind to Annabelle Lyon. After all, she wasn't the only one at that private residence meeting among creative writing faculty in which they discussed allegations that they shouldn't even have known about in the first place. Because if any member of the department should have been told about this by the proper department, it would have been Stephen himself. And he should have been told when he was in the fucking country. Somewhere safe, like maybe in his home. But it's not Annabelle's fault that she was told about the allegations before Stephen was. It's not like a really close friend wants to be the one to break bad news and try to prevent a suicide in a timely fashion. We can hardly blame Annabelle for only thinking about Stephen's safety after the plot that she participated in came to fruition. So I don't want to accuse Annabelle Lyon of any mischief here. I just want to point out that she comes across really insincere, and I don't believe her at all. I think the word manipulative came to her mind because she had a heavy conscience. But I'm sure she'll want to explain herself in public to clear the air. Annabelle made sure that her good friend Stephen Galloway would be committed to a psych ward while she took over as co-chair of his department, along with Linda Svensson. Svensson hosted the off-campus faculty meeting at her home and personally benefited from Galloway's removal as well. But I'm sure there's no connection there. This highly inappropriate faculty meeting, among people who shouldn't have known about the allegations in the first place, ended up with a student named Chelsea Rooney being assigned with the mission of getting more accusers, because Chelsea figured that she could build the charges if given the proper opportunity. Yes, Chelsea Rooney believed that she could drum up multiple accusers. She didn't. Despite approaching as many students as she could, Chelsea let Annabelle down and only came up with a riffraff of ridiculous complaints. If Annabelle is feeling really bad right now, it might be because Chelsea Rooney let her down. It's probably because a real investigation would reveal how pathetic the entire plot really was. But Annabelle was Stephen Galloway's close friend. Makes you wonder, what do people really mean when they call Stephen Galloway privileged? Does privilege get you friends like Annabelle Lyon? Because if that's the case, I'm quite happy to be a social pariah. Stay tuned for a report on the best accusations that Chelsea Rooney could come up with.